Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Redditor BookCast number 7. And yes, I know we haven't been here for a while. It's been a little bit of a hiatus, and that's mainly my fault, because of life changes and stuff that I've been going through, and other obligations that I have to adhere to. So, sometimes it gets hard for me to schedule everything. But now this year, one of my goals is to make sure that, I get on top of my schedule and I do all the things I intend to do. So I definitely want to make sure that Bookcast is always recorded at least once a month from here on. So let's hope I can stick to that. I'm also here with Miss Dana Abercrombie. How you been, Dana?
Hola, everyone. I'm doing great.
That's good.
Been reading yay books.
I'm sure you've been doing lots of reading since the last show. I know I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we have a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on. We've been reading a lot, so let's not delay this. Let's get straight into the show. So I'm gonna start by handing it over to Dana because she's gonna, talk us through some recent headlines in the book industry. So go ahead, take it over, Dana.
Yay. Okay, so Tayari Jones, author of An American Marriage, was selected as the latest Oprah book club pick. She still does her book club picks. I know everyone's involved with Reese Witherspoon's and some other ones, but Oprah always still chooses the great books. So that was the number one choice, well, the only choice for this month. And if you're not aware of it, I've been seeing this book everywhere. I've been hearing people talk about it. I was able to pick up my copy from the library, but it is basically about a world that falls apart. It's about her husband. It's a married couple for many years. Everyone's happy. They're living their best lives when the husband is sent to jail for a murder that he claims he didn't commit. And it's about the family overcoming that and him adjusting to coming back home and dealing with the system and what's it like adjusting. And it's about a black couple, but it's also a story that can be related to everyone. So it's a very good book. I suggest everyone read it of all ages. Doesn't matter your age, but it's really also about if you're interested in the flawed justice system. It's about that as well. Stephen King has announced his second book of 2018, so I'm excited for that. I've read a couple books of his, and they're a little long, but this doesn't seem to be as long as the other ones. But that's coming out pretty soon. Also, the Bone Church is going to be developed about for a series. So that should be very interesting. And plus, we also have Castle Rock, which is coming out on Hulu this summer, I believe August 1st. Everyone should watch it. It's amazing as well. Also, we have Anthony Horowitz has been authorized to write the official James Bond prequel. So if you're a James Bond fan, check that out. That'll be hitting stores at the end of this year or early next year. Um, I'm going to butcher this name because I just a bunch of syllables, but I buy Zobi has a Pride and Prejudice remix that is about gentrified Brooklyn. I was able to read the first chapter of it, and it is amazing. It is about this family, this black family who moves into, well, they already live in Brooklyn, and there's this new very rich black family that moves in next to them. And there's a family of girls, and they're all, flirty and really interested in the guys who came in. And it's just about dating and them trying to court each other. And there's, the different personalities. And it's just like Pride and Prejudice in the sense of the personalities. They changed it, obviously, to reflect more of today's generation and to reflect, Brooklynites, but it's very good. It comes out September 18th, and I definitely recommend it. The first chapter that I read just sucked me in right away. And yes, it is a YA book, but what I discovered with YA books is that they're just as interesting as adult books. Also, speaking of YA, Angie Thomas, who I'm a huge fan of, who is the author of The Hate You Give, who is also the author well, her second book is coming out. It's called On the Come Up. But The Hate You Give, as you guys should already know, it's going to be made into a movie. It had a couple of little hiccups along the way. Come to find out, one of the lead stars, people was digging up, and in his past, he said some very racist comments. And so he's being recast. So they're going to do this the whole, Kevin Spacey type of way, where they're going to start reshooting and refilming. He played the boyfriend of the girl. So they're redoing that, but her second book, On the Come Up, they revealed the cover, and it's about a girl from the same neighborhood as The Hate You Give, where that takes place. It's about the girl. She's like a neighbor, and she wants to be a singer. So it's about her rise on being the come up of the next singer. So it should be very good. I'm very excited. And also, I don't know if this is depressing or exciting for some people. It's very depressing for me. It's one of those eye rolls for me. But we're getting more 50 Shades of Grey books. We had the first trilogy, which was turned into movies. The second set of trilogies, which was the first set, but from Krysten Gray's perspective. We had two that came out. I believe a third one is going to come out next year. And then in an interview, the author E.L. James was saying that she has tons of more stories that she wants to tell. Remember, I'm not spoiling anything because, trust me, it's 50 Shades of Grey. You're not going to die if you know this. At the end, Anna and Christian ends up with two kids. So she can take the story from that perspective of the kids. Also, remember Anna's stepsister, who was her best friend and her college roommate, and she had a relationship with Krysten Gray's brother, who's now also her fiance when we leave them in the book. So they can have a story as well. So E.L. James said there's lots of stories to come out of the series. So that's very depressing. And also in the children's book industry, where they're having their very own Me Too movement. If you haven't heard already, the author James Dashner, who's the author of the Maze Runner series, he has been dropped by his publisher, Random House, for sexual harassment. They're saying they're not going to take it anymore. Also, the author of Lemony Snicket, he's been dropped as well. Also, the author of Jay Ashner, who is the author of 13 Reasons Why, he has also been dropped. And people are expecting there to be even more news coming out about this. It's very rampant. They're saying in the children's publishing world, a lot of sexual harassment is going around, which is kind of shocking because you would think that, it's children's books, so maybe people are not going to be that way. But, people are people at the end of the day, and they do get harassed. So a lot more people are going to end up facing the music soon. So that was like the first round of people being dropped. But there have been reports saying that about roughly 80% of female workers in the book publishing industry are basically being harassed, and they don't have protections. So maybe a lot of things is going to end up coming out. Maybe they're going to have more of laws being placed. Maybe they're going to have their own unions. We don't know. But right now, it's just a lot of people being fired so far. So that seems to be it right now.
Yeah, this whole Me Too thing is definitely, it's affecting a lot of industries, but it's also going to end up changing the world, period, and how we deal with social interactions and things of that nature. So yeah, this is going to continue, and it's definitely going to change and shape the world moving forward. And that's a good thing, as long as all the accusations are legitimate, then it's a good thing, because if somebody has been harassing a woman or someone of any sex, really, then that is a problem for sure. But yeah, as long as everything's legitimate, that's good, and we should hopefully get some change in all industries.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said about YA, and how you've just been discovering that YA is actually really appealing even to adults. That's a discussion I definitely want to have, in greater length at some point. But I've read a lot of YA, and a common misconception is that YA, is just for young adults and teens and stuff. But in my opinion, any book that teaches you or has, is about human nature, you can learn something and take something from that period, if it speaks to you. So I don't think readers should be restricted by age. I mean, I know adults who read children's books, like, still, like, obviously they have children, so they read those children's stories with their children, but they also do read other children's stories for themselves too. So, like, I don't think books have an age limit. Obviously, there are readers who prefer not to read young adult, because they're less about, writing prose and like, the stylistic nature of the writing, and it's more about plot and adventures and stuff. And some people want something a bit more poetic, a bit more meaningful. So I understand that, not everybody's going to read it and stuff, and everyone has their own taste, their own genre maybe that they stick to. But yeah, YA, people should definitely, I don't think people should be like, oh, you can't read YA because you're past the cutoff age or something. Like, there's a lot of really interesting stories in the YA genre. So just wanted to say that quickly.
Well, yeah, I stumbled upon YA by accident. I was reading The Hate You Give only because people recommended it so much. I didn't understand what the heck was going on, because it was like, oh my God, you have to read this book. You have to read it. And so I read the book, not knowing that it was YA. I just wouldn't put it on hold at the library. And it wasn't until after that I finished reading it that I was like, oh, this is YA. I was shocked because I originally thought that I was too old for it. Not because, it was just the age range. It was just, I thought they wasn't going to really say anything that could pertain to adulthood. And that was my ignorance. But they to me, they seem to be more in depth and more in tune of what's going on socially and politically than a lot of the adult books.
Yeah, indeed. And a lot of the adult books are, of course, written by older people who, probably have a more older way of thinking as well. So yeah, the YA is kind of like the new generation of, writers and stuff kind of thing that are more in tune with current world points of view and stuff. So yeah, you're going to find a lot of diversity in that genre.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of interesting news stories there that you just mentioned. I wanted to bring up Stephen King as well, because I've read some of his classics. I read Gunslinger, I read Pet Sematary, I read Needful Things. But I know he's still writing, and that still amazes me that he's still putting out new stuff, even though he has like dozens of classics already. Like, he has maybe even like hundreds, I don't know. But he has a lot of classics behind him. But I wanted to ask you, because I'm not sure how much of his, catalog you've read, but does his new stuff stand up to what he's done in the past? Because I haven't read any of his like newer things, just only his older things.
See, the thing with me is that he is either hit or miss when it comes to his books. Like, for example, I love the original, like the Carries, and I love not so much the Pet Cemetery, but the Green Mile, Shawshank, stuff like that. That was really good. And so Under the Dome, I thought I was going to kill myself because it was just so long, never ending. And it was like 8,000 characters. The same thing goes with The Stand. But then his recent book, Sleeping Beauties, that he wrote with his son, was actually very good. And, so for me, it's like hit and miss. But the good thing about this one, the new book it's called Elevation. It's only 144 pages. It's a novella. And it will release on October 30th. So to me, that right there is doable. Even if it's not that great, I can do 144 pages compared to his other books, which is like, 1,200 or 1,000 or even 900. So for me, he's hit and miss, but he's been pretty decent. The other one that he did was 11/22/63 that they made into a limited TV series on Hulu. That was very good as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I might have to check out some of this new stuff then, especially if it's like less lengthy than his old stuff.
Yeah, and it's kind of just like The Thinner Man. I know the plot they said is although Scott Carey doesn't look any different, he's been steadily losing weight. There are a couple of odd things too. He weighs the same in his clothes in and out of them, no matter how heavy they are. Scott doesn't want to be poked and prodded. He mostly just wants someone to know, and he trusts Dr. Bob Ellis. In the small town of Castle Rock, and we all know what, I'm not sure if you're aware, but Castle Rock is basically the town that connects everything to all of the other books.
Yeah.
But it says the small town of Castle Rock, the setting of many of King's most iconic stories. Scott is engaged in a low-grade but escalating battle, with the lesbians next door, whose dog regularly drops his business on Scott's lawn. One of the women is friendly. The other one is cold as ice. Both are trying to launch a new restaurant, but the people of Castle Rock want no part of a gay married couple, and the place is in trouble. When Scott finally understands the prejudices they face, including his own, he tries to help. Unlikely alliances, the annual foot race, and the mystery of Scott's affliction brings out the best in people who have indulged in the worst in themselves and others. To me, that sounds amazing. And the fact that it connects to the Green Mile and the Outsiders and It and all of the other stories, could make for some interesting run-ins with other characters. So I'm all for that. To me, that seems like he's back on track and not like the Stand. We have to deal with 5,000 different things going on.
Yeah, I mean, like on the other shows we do together, we talk about, film studios and TV shows adopting all these universes and stuff. The Stephen King universe will be a really good one to do cinematically, just because there's so many connections. But exciting things for Stephen King fans. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on with regards to the news?
Well, if you're still a Stephen King fan, remember I mentioned Hulu's Castle Rock. There's also the sequel to It. There's Pet Sematary remake. There's the second season of Mr. Mercedes and the adaptation of Dr. Sleep. So they're all on their way in 2018 and 2019.
Awesome. Lots to look forward to. I'll be looking forward to that Pet Sematary one too, just because I read the book recently. But yeah, sounds exciting.
Yep. Fun times.
Cool. So yeah, we're gonna move on to our main discussion then, before we get into what we've been reading and stuff like that. So the main discussion this week came about because I do run a book blog at Redditor. I haven't been posting as much as I used to, but that's just because of life adjustments and things of that nature. I do want to start blogging on there a bit more and stuff like that. But basically, because I have that, and obviously we do the BookCast, sometimes we can feel a bit of pressure, or even if you just have a Goodreads account, you might feel that pressure too. You might be able to relate to this. The pressure of having a currently reading book, a book that you're currently reading right now, and perhaps you're not enjoying it as much as you thought you would originally, and you want to drop it so that you can go on to other things that you really want to read. But because people are watching the books that you've read or currently reading, you feel that pressure to continue to read it and finish it, because that if you drop it, people are probably going to notice that you didn't finish it. So yeah, that is something that's happened to me at least 3 times since I've been doing Redditor. Like, there's been a book that I'm featuring or something, and I'm not enjoying it as much as I thought I would. And I try to read everything within a month, like the featured book. I try to read it within 30 days, hopefully within a week, if it's that good. But sometimes it just doesn't go that way, and that's happened to me recently, and I'm feeling that pressure because I gotta try and finish the book so I can do a write-up on it and things like that. But even without the website, even if I was just a regular Goodreads reader, I'd probably still feel that pressure, because you have your Goodreads reading goals, and your friends, they're not like actively looking at your page to see whether you've read everything, but you, like, when you're announcing that you're reading something, you then feel that pressure to finish it. So The question with our discussion is, at what point is it okay to just drop a book? Like, or is it okay, or should you aim to finish every book that you start? So that's the discussion I want to have with you today. What's your take on that, first of all? You're
My
muted.
take, sorry, I was muted. My take is very simple. For me, in my case, unless it's a review, then of course I have to finish it. Right now, I'm currently reading Runaways, an original novel by Christopher Golden, and I legit want to die. I just want to die, and so that I'd never have to see this book again. And I'm dragging with it because it's so uninteresting, and I am just disconnected with the book, all the characters and everything. But I have to finish it. Now, if this was a book that was like, for my own personal read, then I would be like, I did as much as I could. I'm sorry, screw you. I'm not doing it anymore, and I wouldn't read it. But I would technically count it as a book that I read because I got through what I got through. I read it somewhat, and I would just, keep it moving. I don't really think that there should be that pressure to finish a book. If it sucks, it sucks. Now, I will say this. There was moments where I did feel pressured when something was like very major, where like it's got a great buzz about it and everyone's saying, oh my God, it's great. And I would just be out of my own curiosity trying to figure out, what made this book so amazing and why I'm not seeing it yet on the page. So it's just like a curious thing for me. But if the book is really just that bad, screw your goals, screw what everybody else says, just stop reading the book. Reading should be something that's pleasurable and not a torture. So don't read it. Simple as that.
Well, I'm not so sure about that because it sounds like the police are coming for you because you're not finishing the book. But yeah.
Book police. They're angry.
Yeah, they sound angry.
Hating that I hated his book.
Yeah, he called the cops. But yeah, I tend to agree with you. Like, reading is supposed to be a pleasurable experience, and the way I see it is that every reader is different. We all have different tastes. Going back to what I said earlier, like, people like different genres, they like different things, they expect different things from their books. So one person could absolutely love a book, and the next person, it just might not be their cup of tea. Like, they might not like it. It might not be for them, so I don't think you should be, it shouldn't be like a strict thing that you have to finish the book if it's not resonating with you. Now, the book I was trying to read, right, is and I don't know if you're gonna look at me crazy for having an issue with it, but the book I was trying to read was Bonfire by Krysten Ritter.
Excuse me?
I really
just read it.
Say that again.
You just read it. What do you mean try to read?
Yeah, I mean, I got like 30% into it, right? So I read a good chunk of it, but it's just the reason I'm struggling is because it's got to 30% and it just hasn't resonated with me. And I really wanted to like it because I like Krysten Ritter and everything. And I've been waiting for that book for a long time too, like ever since she announced it. But it's just, it didn't connect with me for some reason. I'm not sure why. It's not a bad book. Let me make that clear. It's not a bad book. It's just where I'm at with it is like I'm 30% through it and it hasn't resonated. The story doesn't feel like it's moving. And there's like, I'm looking at all these other books that I want to read, all these other exciting books and stuff that I'm interested in. So I kind of put it on pause, and now it's like I'm feeling that pressure now. I do want to still try to finish it, but it's hard sometimes. Like, sometimes you just want to read other stuff, because you feel like you'll be enjoying that more thoroughly than the current book. And like I said, it's not a bad book. It's just, I think the type of book it is and the story it's telling doesn't really resonate with me personally. It doesn't, click. And yeah, it's just me personally, I'm having a harder time trying to connect with it. That's all. But it's not a bad book. It's not badly written. It's just, just a personal thing. Like,
you broke my heart.
So did you? I know you have that book, right? Did you finish it?
Last year, I still haven't read it.
Okay.
I had
Well,
it since June of last year. I'm staring at it right now, and it's just like I'll get to it when I get to it, which seems to be for never. But you broke my heart. I thought it was supposed to be good.
I mean, it's maybe you'll like it. Like, I really want to get your opinion on it whenever you get around to it. Because I want to know if it's just me, because I did go on Goodreads and I saw it got good reviews, on Amazon and everything. Whether that's because she's popular and she's a celebrity and an actress and everything, I don't know. But it does seem to get good reviews. So I was, expecting something amazing, but it hasn't really blown away. It hasn't. It doesn't even seem entirely original to me, But I'm not saying she's a bad writer, because she can write, and there's a lot of potential there. I think, if she continues to write, she's going to write something amazing, eventually.
So
But
writing like Jessica Jones, is it just monotone all the way through?
that's hilarious. No, I mean, well, yeah, kind of. It does kind of lack emotion a little bit at certain points, but
Ouch.
yeah.
Hurts.
But
Wait, that really hurts.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
read the
it's
book. That really hurts.
like I said, it's not bad. It's not terrible. I've read worse. It's just, it's not clicking. It's not resonating quick enough for me. Like, it's 30% of the way through and nothing has really happened much. So that's just my, thing with it. But yeah, I mean, this has happened to me before as well, not just with that book. I don't want to put all the focus on that book because it's, but yeah, it's happened to me a number of times. Oh, another one that I tried to read recently was The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon
Mm-hmm.
Sanderson is a very popular fantasy author, and since the project that I'm writing, I'm writing like a novel and stuff of my own, and it blends fantasy and sci-fi. So I wanted to read some fantasy from one of the top names in the genre, and I tried to get into that, and it was a similar story. Like, and that book is very long. Like, let me make that clear. Like, The Final Empire is a long book. Like, it might be like 900 pages or something like that, and it's very descriptive. Like, I think I got 30% through that as well, and because it's such a long book, 30% is a lot, like in pages. And though, like, all those pages were basically describing how the magic works. So yeah, by the time I got to that 30%, I was kind of like bored. Even though the story was picking up, I was just kind of like, yeah, this is taking too long. Like, I want to read something else. But I do want to go back to that because it is an interesting world and the magic is interesting. It's just that it took so long just to fully explain how it works, So yeah, like, stuff like that happens, and I don't think readers should feel pressured to complete the book right away. You could even put it down and come back to it months down the line, and I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, but here's my question. How many times should it take to get through a book? Because I am still to this day trying to get through Ready Player One, and I'm dying.
Yeah, I mean, the film's coming out, so there's that. You could just watch that. It looks like it will be more exciting to watch the movie. So
I mean, all I just keep hearing about is the Oasis, the Oasis, the Oasis, and nothing is really happening.
yeah, I think for that book is really just like, it's a fan service kind of book. It's not great literature, like like, I wouldn't feel pressured to finish it. You've already read Warcross, and I'm sure Warcross does wonders for that genre in particular. So you've probably read the best there is of that genre currently. So you shouldn't feel pressured to finish Ready Player One, especially with the movie. Like, you could just watch that and get the full context of what it's about. That book is really just fan service for geeks, to be honest. So don't feel pressured to if you're not enjoying it.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's just so many better books than that in this genre. Warcross, I keep saying for that. That's one of my favorites, and
Yeah.
that's about a video game as well. And then there's even the Jason Segel Otherworld. So maybe I'll just stop trying to read it for the 20th time.
Yeah, I would say just watch the movie, because I already recommended that book to someone and they didn't really like it. So I don't want to, I don't want to be the guy to say you should finish it. So
it was me.
No, it was another friend. He's probably gonna listen to this too, so that would be funny. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on it. And as for Bonfire, I do want to try and finish it at some point. I am going to still do a write-up of it, regardless of how far I get into it, just stating my thoughts on it, with like my thing is, if I don't finish the book, I'm not going to call it an official review. I'm just going to call it like my thoughts on it, because the aim of Redditor is to feature a book every month and try to finish it and write a review. That's what I aim for. But if I don't finish it, then I'm just going to do a write-up on it and my thoughts so far kind of thing. So that's probably what's going to happen at the end of the month, because I have actually started reading something else, which I'm finding more interesting. So but I'll talk about that later. But do you have any final thoughts on the topic?
No, if it's not serious, just don't read the book. Don't finish it. And move on to something else.
Yep. You gotta make sure that you're enjoying your reading, people. So put your enjoyment first, for sure. And you don't need to feel bad for the author, like, because you didn't like it. Like, I'm still a fan of Krysten Ritter's work, even though I'm not finishing her book, or I'm struggling to get through it, but I'm still a fan of her, and I hope that she doesn't hate me now. So yeah.
Ouch.
Okay, yeah, so let's get into books that we have read. Now, for this segment, I'm going to just focus on books that I've read within the past month, so like sort of mid-January through February kind of thing, because I read 5 books in January, so I'm just going to talk about those and stuff that I read this month too. But I know you seem to get through a lot of books, and you're always getting sent books, so you're probably going to have a long list of stuff. How much do you have to get through, by the way? Because I might go first, but I'm just curious how much you've got.
What happened was what that I already read?
Yeah, that you've read in the past month.
It's not that much. No,
it's not that much. Just like 20.
Ha 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 ha. According to Goodreads, what it was. So what? Like, is it December, January, or January, February?
January, February.
Oh, okay. No, it's not even that much. So,
okay.
Hoo on you.
All right. Well, yeah, I'll go first, and then I'll pass over to you. So January was probably one of the months where I read some of the best stuff that I really enjoyed. And I've even recommended some of this stuff to other people. I even had another friend that read one of these books too, and we were talking about it and discussing it and stuff. So that was cool. But yeah, 2 of these books you actually recommended as well, which is interesting. But yeah, so the main book I read, which was featured on Redditor, was The Vegetarian by Kang. And I like this book exceeded my expectations. Like, I remember you talking about it. I think you actually talked about it on the BookCast. And yeah, like the way you described it, I was interested in it then. I was intrigued and everything. But reading it was something completely different. Like, it just, from the moment I started reading it, it took me out of reality and put me into the story. Now, the book is about, a woman who's kind of, she's going through some sort of mental disorder, some mental issues and stuff. And, she has a husband, she's in a marriage. The husband kind of, like, he doesn't fully respect her. He just sees her as like, a wife that he settled for kind of thing. And one day out of nowhere, she just decides to stop eating meat and becomes a vegetarian. And she proceeds to throw away all the meat in the freezer and the fridge and everything. And he's obviously disturbed by this because, this is set in South Korea, by the way. I should add that. And in South Korea, there's kind of like a negative stigma towards vegetarians because they believe that meat is an essential part of the diet, of the human diet. So there's a negative stigma attached to her instantly for being a vegetarian. And the husband is quite disturbed about, her choice, and this brings about tension in the marriage. And yeah, so like the book is kind of split into 3 parts, and in each part it's a different character. It's a different character's perspective towards the woman in question. The woman is called Young Hai. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that's the name. And yeah, so you get the perspective of her husband, of her brother-in-law, and of her sister. And I can't explain it fully, but more. I can't expand on it more than that without giving away a lot of what happens. I think everybody should just read it. Like, it's not a long book at all. It's like 200 pages maybe. Everyone can get through it in like a week. Like, I got through it in a few days. And that's good for, like, I'm sure there's people out there who could read it in one day, but for me, reading a 200 page book in a couple of days is a big deal for me, like, because like it usually takes me a while to finish books. So yeah, everyone should give this a chance. It won awards. It's been hyped up, and that's one of the things that made me think maybe maybe it's not as good as it's being hyped up. But when I actually read it, I was a believer. After that, I was like, yeah, there's a reason this is good. Like, and it's translated because the writer is from South Korea. But even I think Deborah Smith is the translator. She did an exceptional job. There is no word that is wasted in this book. Like, the words are chosen very carefully. It reads very poetically. Like, so it's a very well written book. And it's short, so everyone should read it. At the end, of the book, I felt emotional. Like, I felt real emotion. I didn't cry, but like, I felt emotion about the book. Like, it made me feel something. So yeah, I definitely recommend The Vegetarian.
And can I just throw out in there, since I'm the one who recommended it and went completely crazy over it and kind of forced you to read it, that it's an allegory. It's a metaphor. So if you're thinking about, oh, it's trying to turn me into like a vegetarian or a vegan, it's a metaphor for life in Korea. And you get to see from the 3 different perspectives. It's very interesting because you never hear the perspective of who the book is actually based on. So you get everyone else's point of view. And as a representation, also you can argue about women in that society, of how silent they must remain. So it's nothing really to do with meat or even food. It's about making your own identity and the backlash that you get behind it.
Yeah, exactly what she said. And one of the beautiful things about the book is about what is written, but also about what's not written in the book. Like, there's a lot that you get from the book about South Korean culture that's not written in there, but you just by reading it, you get an understanding of it, of what it's like. So
art as well, because remember the photographer.
Yeah, that part of the book was crazy. But yeah, amazing book in my opinion. Definitely one of the best books I've read. 5 stars out of 5.
And also there's a scene with abuse, and how abuse is considered a form of, overall we all know it's a form of control, but for there in South Korea, how it's the culture, it's like they don't really look upon it as being like, oh, it's abuse. It's just regular daily life, because you're not abiding by the rules. Because there's this dinner scene with the family that that involves eating, and again, it's not really about food, it's about being in control.
Yep, that was definitely a very touching scene. But yeah, Everyone, this is a book I highly recommend. You know, I think everybody should read it. It's going to go down as a classic book. So,
And also, I
definitely.
didn't know this recently. It's a Korean movie. They made it into a movie like
Oh,
years ago.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you
Is
I
it
was
is it
lying.
is it translated?
No, well, you get the subtitles.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's on YouTube. It's very easy to find. You just write, the vegetarian movie.
Cool. Yeah, I would definitely recommend reading it though, because like it's so beautifully written. But yeah,
Yeah, because the movie does not translate just how beautiful the word usage is. And the thing with Deborah is that she just learned the language. This isn't something that she, was born into. So that's what makes it even more amazing.
yeah, indeed. So yeah, another book that you recommended was Perfect Days by
Montes,
say again.
Raphael Montes.
Raphael Montes. There you go. Yeah.
Some good.
Yeah. This one was more of a plot driven book. And I like after reading Vegetarian, I was like, man, I gotta get some more recommendations from Dana, like, because that touched me. And she told me to read this, and I started reading it. At first I was like, okay, where's this going? It's about a guy who's kind of he's like, I wouldn't say introverted, but like he's in his own world. He's a medical student. He dissects bodies in labs and stuff like that for medical purposes, for his studies and everything. And it starts with him actually like kind of being infatuated with a dead woman that he's dissecting and stuff like, which it was weird, but yeah, I was like, okay, where's this going? And then, in the next scene, he meets this girl at, a party he attends with his mom. And from there, he kind of takes a liking to this girl. And then the rest of the book is him being a very creepy guy. He actually follows her, and then he's convinced that they should be together after that. And he actually ends up kidnapping her, and the book basically follows his kidnapping of her and him trying to persuade her that they need to be together. The woman is a script writer, so she's working on writing a script, and he takes her away and he's like, oh, I'm helping you to write your script and I'm supporting you and all this. But obviously she's disturbed because he's kidnapped her. And it's just, I can't really say more than that. Like, you have to read it. Like, again, it's not that long. It's longer than Vegetarian, but still not a very long book. So I recommend everybody read that, because for me, it was another 5-star book. Like, it made me feel something like when I read it. Definitely different from the Vegetarian, because it was more feelings of like shock and surprise. But yeah, definitely recommend it. Like, it's a very sick and twisted kind of novel. It's not very graphic. Like, some people don't like stuff to be too graphic and stuff like that. It's not horror. It's not horror. It's not graphic. It's just very creepy and twisted. And yeah, I think it's a great read. It's exciting.
It's more of a psychologically based, because if you see, when you read the book, the two characters, they end up trying to play psychological games with each other, and then it's very well rounded, because you get to find out her story, and you find out about her parent and her parents' story and what goes on with that, and how she was brought up and raised, and how she is a bit of a rebel, and I can't say more. And then you find out more about him and his family, and how it's really hard to explain. For her, it's a pure horror, but for him, it's literally called Perfect Days because of him and his perception of things. It's psychological in the sense of he's very focused and very driven, and you see these two try to combat against each other psychologically, and how they try to outwit each other. I can't say anything else more about it, but what I appreciated about this book the most is you get his background, and you get he, at the end of the day, wants freedom. And I can't explain why, but he is looking for freedom. And if you see how he's very, held down in his life, and there's certain routines and things that he does because he's also a caretaker as well. And because of that, it also kind of explains why he talks to the dead, because he's able to engage in them, and he is able to have this conversation and be more free with himself when he's engaging with a corpse, as opposed to engaging with live people who he feels has always kept him down. And so by him doing what he does with this woman, he keeps striving for, just even for that moment, for him to have this life that he always wanted. And I can't explain more about it because it's very twisted, but it's one of those books that it's very frightening because it's very true. And there have been news reports of there's a incident of which he does with the body, of how he ends up kidnapping this woman, that is played out in the news. And also, if you do read the book, I suggest you read the very last of the pages where it has the author's notes, because he breaks down how all of this is humanly possible in today's world, including there's a scene with a suitcase.
Yeah, that's very disturbing. But yeah, and another thing is, like, the reason he wrote this book is because his mother read some of his prior work, and she was like, you should read something, more happy, like a love story. So this is his version of a love story.
Version of a love story. And also, it's translated because the book is the guy is Brazilian.
Yeah, so exactly.
A wonderful translation with the book as well. And I wish it was, because to me it was just amazing. It was one of those books where it scares you. For me, when I was reading it, I constantly found myself throwing it across the room just because how sick and demented it was. But it's not blood, it's not gore. Everything is psychologically based.
Yeah. There's definitely a few moments where I just like put the book down. I was like, wow, like okay, I got to prepare myself to read this some more. Like there was a lot of moments like that. Like it was very and I'm someone who's very desensitized from from a lot of like messed up stuff in books. Like usually I don't feel anything towards it, and I'm not sure if it's maybe the vegetarian that maybe made me vulnerable going into this, but yeah, like Perfect Days was like, wow, like there's a lot of stuff in there that just affected me. Like not like I wasn't angry or disturbed. Like it was just I was really uneasy about it. Like it's hard to explain. You just gotta read it. Like it's a really good book. Like I just recommend everybody go read it if they want to read something a bit different. Something not so happy. It's you could debate it's happy. But
it's happy depending on whose point of view you're looking at, because if for him it is Perfect Days.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So there's different ways to look at it. So yeah, for sure. But thank you for those two recommendations. I definitely want them, because those were both 5-star to me. Those were 5-star books for me. And then also I read a book from Mario Puzo called Omerta. Now I must say that I'm a huge fan of Italian mob stories. I love The Godfather, which is also written by Mario Puzo. And I love Scarface. I love like gangster mob movies and things with Italians and stuff like that. So every now and then I just have this desire to read one of those books. Omerta isn't one of his highly regarded novels, but I really, really enjoyed it personally. It was exactly what I needed in that moment in time. It's about like a mob boss who's they put a hit out on him. Like this mob boss, he owns banks. He owns his own private banks and stuff. So there's this group of people who put a hit out on him in hopes that they can then buy his banks from his children, because his children kind of don't want any part of, you know, what their dad was involved in. But the Don who owns the banks, he like for years he'd been grooming this other kind of son. Like he saw him like a son. He wasn't biologically his son, but it's a boy from Sicily that he kind of groomed to be, you know, like his son. And he actually signed the majority of the banks in his name. You know, his family owned a small part of it, like his actual children owned a small part, but he gave the majority of it to this other son because he knew that a day like that might come, and he knew that the boy from Sicily would be strong enough to kind of oppose and, you know, outthink and outsmart those guys who are trying to take over the banks. So it's a very, like, there's a lot of conspiracy and a lot of you know, crime, organized crime and stuff like that in the book. And if you compare it to Mario Puzo's other works, it's definitely not as exciting, but for me, it was what I wanted in that moment in time, because, you know, after reading Vegetarian and Perfect Days, I kind of just wanted something a bit more simple, a bit more, you know, easy to read. So it fit what I was looking for at that moment, and I enjoyed it. Definitely not his best work, but I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 3 or 4 stars on Goodreads. But if you're a fan of Mario Puzo specifically, I definitely recommend you read it. But it's not something I would recommend to someone who's just looking for a crime novel, because there's better books to recommend. But yeah, I enjoyed it. And then the last one I'll talk about is a book called The Outsider by Albert Camus. Albert Camus, he's French. This is a classic work of fiction. It's actually republished by Penguin. Albert Camus has already passed away because, you know, he's a classic author and stuff. And this is basically about a man who struggles to come to terms with his emotions. So the book actually starts off with his mother's death, and I can't remember how it's written exactly, but it's like, my mother died yesterday, or maybe it was the day before. I can't really remember. So that right there tells you that there's something wrong with this guy. Like, he can't even remember like when his mother died. And it starts off with him, you know, arranging the funeral and all that stuff. And he's not really showing or attaching any emotion to it. It's like just a normal day for him kind of thing. And the book continues to unfold with him, and he continues to act in that manner where he's just doing things nonchalantly, like just not really thinking about it, not displaying any emotion. And it eventually leads to him committing some pretty crazy crime, and he has trouble understanding why he's being punished for it. So yeah, this is another really short book too. It's like, you know, under 200 pages or something. So like, if you're interested in getting into some classic literature, that's something you can check out. And by the end of the book, he kind of starts to understand a little, I think, and come to terms with what's happened to him and why. But yeah, it's just something that's very interesting. And this was recommended by my friend Garrett Glass. So shout outs to him. But was you going to say something?
Wow. No, it seems really interesting.
Yeah, like, because Garrett actually read The Vegetarian as well. And after that, you know, he kind of recommended this to me because it's like, you know, another kind of character study. Like, The Vegetarian was kind of a character study of Young Hai. So yeah, this is kind of another character study, like where you're trying to figure out what the hell is wrong with this dude. So yeah, it's cool. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything, you know, crazy. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a 5-star book or anything, but it's definitely an interesting read. But that's pretty much it. I did read. I finished reading. Man, what is that comic called? I forgot. Um, Tokyo Ghost. Yeah, I finished reading Tokyo Ghost comic series as well in January, and that was very good. If you are into graphic novels, that's definitely one of the ones I recommend. That's not from Marvel or DC. So yeah, that's a really good one.
Cool.
That's pretty much everything I read over the past month. Well, I can include the things that I'm currently reading as well. So obviously Bonfire was one of them. I already talked about that. And the book I'm currently reading right now is The Death of WCW. And I know Dana knows a lot about that. You know, we often talk about wrestling behind the scenes and stuff. Me personally, like I find like I don't even watch wrestling on a week to week basis anymore.
He doesn't watch at all. Go on.
Yeah, she likes to tease me because she says I'm not a real wrestling fan.
I like
But
to preach the truth.
whatever you say. But I do want to say that wrestling was a big part of my upbringing, big part of my childhood and my high school days. But nowadays I don't like it. It's just not the same, so I don't watch it. But I do keep up with a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that happens. And Dana and my other friends help to keep me up to speed in what's going on. But I want to say that I find the wrestling industry very interesting, despite the fact I don't watch the product, because it's like its own society. Like they have their own laws, their own, their own guidelines, their own way of thinking, their own way of doing things. It's like they're completely independent from normal society. I compare them to like the circus. Like it's like its own culture. And that always really interests me, like hearing the behind the scenes stuff. Like I watch a lot of wrestling shoots and stuff on YouTube where they talk about the wrestlers behind the scenes and backstories and that sort of thing. Like I find all that stuff interesting. And this book is like, it's really bringing me back to the 90s, like in my childhood. And I never really watched WCW because I was loyal to WWF. I was a big Shawn Michaels fan. But looking back and reading this, I realized like how good WCW actually was at one point. Like, because I remember I was a hardcore WWF guy, but I had friends at school who were hardcore WCW guys, and they would fill me in and what's going on, and we would argue what like which one is better and which one has the better wrestlers. But now that I really think about it, some of the stuff they did in WCW was cutting edge. Like it was really unique and it changed the industry forever. It's just sad that the business end of things wasn't as tight as Vince McMahon's business. Like he's obviously the better businessman from a financial aspect. He knows how to manage things, and WCW, there was too many people in charge. Ted Turner merged the company, so that had an effect on things. And there's like this book is just really giving me a lot more insight into what actually happened behind the scenes. So it's really interesting for me. But go ahead. Have you read it?
Yeah. That book came out a while ago. A long time ago. But yeah, and as someone who's an actual fan, you get to watch it fall down as it was happening. So yeah, it's very insightful. It's a very good book, and it explains the behind the scenes thing. Yeah, that book came out in 2004. So yeah, I've read it. It's been around. It's been around for a while now, and it's a very insightful book, and it's very good. And again, it explains, the business side of things, which people just look at, the show and don't realize what's going on behind stages. And there was a lot of egos that got in the way and a lot of mismanagement and also Ted Turner and the whole TNT when they went and merged with, I want to say Time Warner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when they merged with Time Warner, that was definitely the end of things. And what was really funny as a kid, I was remembering, this is so amazing, it'll never end. And of course, like every big thing, it fell, and that was the end of things, and was bought by the company WWE years later.
Yep. And one of the things I actually did, like, because this book made me want to relive certain moments again with the NWO and stuff. So I actually went on the WWE network to watch WCW. So yeah,
For only
that tells you how that went, you know. So.
Yep. So they need to come out with a documentary for that, because they did the rise and fall of ECW.
Didn't they do one on WCW?
I think, yeah, you're right. You're right. They did. See, I'm old now, so
They did Monday Night Wars, right?
They did Monday Night Raw Wars, and they did the rise and fall of WCW in 2009.
Right. Yeah.
Kevin Dunn directed it. Yeah, Kevin Dunn. Yeah. See, I'm old now. My brain is not like it used to be. So
yeah, I don't think I watched the rise and fall of WCW, but I watched Monday Night Wars, and that was pretty cool.
It is pretty. Remember also that it's a little slanted because it's WWE that's putting it out.
Yeah, I kind of got that, you know, feeling that they, you know, obviously it's from their point of view, but yes. that's why I'm reading this book too, because I want to get more of a broad perspective on things. So.
And so you also read the rise and fall of ECW. I know you don't know what ECW is at all.
Oh, I know what ECW is.
Okay.
Paul Heyman thing, the hardcore wrestling. That's where if you wanted to see people going through tables and barbed wire and all sorts of stuff, you watched ECW back in the day. Like that was where all that came from.
And women wrestling with men.
Yeah.
Equality and a lot of other stuff. Yeah, that's where you go. You go to ECW. Yeah, so watch that.
Sabu, one of the greatest stuntmen of all time.
I love your accent. It's just Sabu. Yep, him.
Yep.
But and Tommy Dreamer, the godfather of ECW.
Every time I reminisce about these old days of wrestling, it hurts because like it was so long ago and I'm so old now. But yeah,
there's an entire generation out there who has no idea what we're even talking about. What's this happening?
Exactly. So I will take this moment to actually plug the WrestleCast, you know, because there's probably people listening who might not be interested in wrestling. But if you are interested in wrestling, go to thecoalition.com. Coalition is spelled with a K, and check out the WrestleCast. And that actually features Dana on it, along with Richard Bailey Jr. and Adam Vale and Ricardo Negron. So
tonight at 9 we'll be there. It's Friday night WrestleCast, so it's Friday.
Yep. So yeah, it's actually live tonight. So yeah, definitely go check that out if you want to hear more wrestling talk. Dana has banned me from that show because she thinks I'm not a real wrestling fan. So
he just calls up to say, "Yay, Hulk Hogan!"
I'm not even a Hulk Hogan fan, so yeah, I didn't do that. But
well, you shouldn't. He's not a fan of you anymore. Poor Hogan.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it for me, like in terms of what I've been reading and what I'm reading. So I'm gonna pass it over to you. So let us know what you've been reading.
Hot mic. All right. I've been reading a lot of crappy books, thrown in with some really great books, mixed with some meh books. So I'll make it quick. The Stars Beneath Our Feet by David Barclay Moore. I got this book. Well, I didn't get. Here's the thing. Also, I just want to say, I love the library, and I'm a big fan of the library. So if you can get your books from the library. Okay, so boom, I just plugged that. All right, so The Stars Beneath Our Feet, I ended up falling in love with the cover. And it's an African-American boy, and he's walking on Legos. And he's in the projects. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing that ever happened. It combines two things. It combines my love of Legos and my love of art. And the cover itself was just so beautiful. So I was like, what is this book? I have to read it. Who cares about the plot? But the plot is about this African-American boy who, hilariously, the book is set literally like 10 blocks away from me. And so, like, to read about your own little neighborhood was just hilarious. So, but he's like, the neighborhood's changed now because it took place like a little while ago. But so it's about this guy who lives in the projects. I don't live in the projects, but like, I am aware of the area. Anyway, so he lives in the projects, and you know, it's a lot of stereotypical things that happen in the projects where he's a black kid and he's just trying to make it out, just being alive. And his outlet is building Legos. So he makes these wonderful creations and masterpieces with the Lego blocks. And he creates his own world through that. And he meets this girl who I want to say is autistic. She's autistic and she doesn't really communicate. She's very big. She's very heavy. She's dark skinned. So you know the stereotype that she automatically faces there. And she's autistic on top of that. So she's bullied throughout the school, and she keeps changing schools. So she ends up meeting this guy, and they have really nothing in common. Remember, she doesn't speak. But they're able to communicate with each other through Legos. So it's about not only him building his own world and wanting to survive and the success that happens by being a Lego builder, but the communications and the stories that we can have with each other just by building Legos. Legos you're able to create your own story with. So if you build a castle, you're able to have, hey, here's the dragon and here's the people. So what's the dragon doing? What's the purpose of this building over here? And they're able to form their own little language and their own codes all through Legos. So that to me was so good, and it was so imaginative, and I just loved everything about it. The other book I read is called Dear Martin. It's by Nick Stone. When I went to BookCon in 2007 in June or May, I'm not sure, but everyone kept saying, you have to read this book, you have to read this book, and I couldn't get an advanced copy. So I was like, all right. So I waited for the book. It is, oh my goodness gracious. And this is also when I have to say, well, YA books seem to be more socially aware than, say, adult books. This book was about this guy who wrote letters to Martin Luther King. And you remember Martin Luther King in the 60s, he promoted nonviolent activism and the protests, but nonviolently. So he's saying how the boy who the book is about is saying he's a teenager, he's a basketball star, and he goes to a white school, but he's saying, how am I allowed to be nonviolent when the police are brutally murdering African-American boys? What am I supposed to do to protest? I feel like my voice is not being heard. And what ends up happening with him is he goes to the school and it's all white, and it's really hard for people to relate to him and what's going on. And he feels like he's stuck in the middle between two different worlds, where he has his neighborhood. He lives in what is perceived as the ghetto, even though it's not ghetto-ish, but there are, gangs and stuff that is around. And he goes to this all-white school. So he's stuck in the middle, and he has this friend, and I don't want to say what ends up happening, but it completely changes his world and his perspectives, because he has to deal with a murder that he's literally involved with. And it hits him right at home. And He keeps writing these letters to Martin Luther King saying, what am I supposed to do? I feel really helpless, and I'm having violence at my door. I am being, people are coming at me and they're being violent towards me simply because of my skin color. What do I do when I am actually shot and I'm in the hospital? How do I act non-violently against that? So that Nick.
Who did you say the author was? Eric Killmonger?
Stone. It's a female, African American female.
Okay, cool.
So that was incredible. It was like, wow, because you think that it's going to be one of those. Okay, here we go again. How am I supposed to make it? I'm the stereotypical. Seems like it's like a bunch of stereotypes where it's like, how do I make it out the neighborhood again? But then there's an event that occurs. And it has nothing to do with, stereotypes as in, black on black violence, as you may see like in the other books. But it is about white on black violence. And how do I get myself out of that when I'm being personally attacked? So it's a very interesting book. It's beautiful. Another book that I read is called A Beautiful, Terrible Thing. It's a memoir of marriage and betrayal. It's by Jen Waite. And it was so bad. And it's just so sad to say like, this is about your life, but I don't understand. I feel that people are just allowed to write memoirs for no reason of whatsoever. When you don't have anything interesting happening in your life, you're like, oh, I'm going to just still write a memoir about it. Basically, it's about a woman who discovers that her husband is a cheater. And he has not just one other woman on the side, but multiple. And he's able to create different stories and lies and lives by dating all these different women. And he's able to balance it all. So like, yay you. I don't know what he's doing with his money, but yay for him doing that. But she keeps labeling him as a sociopath, and there's really nothing that's sociopathic about him. So it's just written from a woman who's scorned and who's angry, but she doesn't have anything to say or anything that she wants us to learn about it, aside from just watch out from about men who cheat. It was really just a waste of my time, and it should have never been made into a book. Like there are people.
It's like a man bashing type book. It sounds like.
Yeah, it was like, you know, I'm angry, so I'm going to write my journal, and then somehow my journal becomes a book. It was just, and it was also misdiagnosis. The guy is not a sociopath. Like, you really have to understand what a sociopath is. What happens is she went on Wikipedia, and you know how you diagnose things on Wikipedia?
Yeah.
So like, it's cancer or it's a sociopath. So she chose sociopath.
Oh yeah, the internet has told me that I have like all types of conditions. So yeah, I'm like a really messed up person. So
remember, if you sneeze, your liver is like gonna fail and your heart's gonna explode. So that's basically. She literally went on YouTube, on Wikipedia, was like, "What happens? The man is always cheating and he lies. Oh, it's a sociopath." And then she just ran with it. So it's just really, it was so bad. A book that I spoke a little bit earlier about, Warcross by Marie Lu. I love Marie Lu. She's one of my favorite authors ever. It's going to be a trilogy. It takes place in Japan. It's about this guy who I compare to being, oh shoot, I just completely forgot his name. What is the Japanese guy from
Hideo Kojima?
Yes, him. So I compared it to him. Basically, you take this kid who's like 26 and he creates this virtual reality game. So he's a billionaire now, and he's still like 20, like I want to say 26. So he's like a 26-year-old billionaire, and he creates this game, but he discovers that someone in the game is hacking. They're able to hack into the game, and they're able to steal things and vital information from him. So he recruits this girl. By what happens is she decides to hack in the game itself. It's during, like, say, imagine like the World Cups where everybody all around the world is watching, right? So she's able to hack in, but she hacks in wrong where they're able to see her, and she's not supposed to be seen in the game. Her goal, her way of trying to do things was to hack into the game, not be seen, and just like slowly steal people's, like, they call them power-ups, which is basically you can use it in the real world as money. But she's able to be seen. So he recruits her to find out who's trying to hack him and hack the game and break in. And you go through this huge thing where I kind of compare it to a little bit of Harry Potter, but it's with all science and computer based. And Marie Lu is an amazing science writer. So she knows her stuff, and she's also a gamer and a computer programmer. So she knows what she's writing about, and her action is just, it's really crisp. It's right there. It feels like Quidditch from Harry Potter. So if you like that type of thing, but it's also like, instead it's capture the flag, but it's also about world building, but that's just the game itself. The book is about her trying to find the hacker, and also she ends up revealing secrets that this guy has about his life. And it's a trilogy. So when you get to the end, you're like, oh, what just happened? And so I can't say anything. I can't say what she does or how it ends, but it is one of the best video game-based books that I have read. So again, it's going to be a trilogy. And another one that of hers that I read is called Batman Nightwalker. DC, they have what's called an icon series of all their books that's going to come out based on the top characters from their DC universe. So there's Wonder Woman, Catwoman, Batman, Superman, and they're all going to be, I think there's 2 books they release a year. So hers came out at the very beginning of 2008 in January. I ended up getting an advanced reader copy of it, and it is one of the most amazing books. Now, you know who Batman is, you know who Bruce Wayne is, right? So there's no need to explain that. But it takes place when he's 18, on his 18th birthday. And his parents are already dead, so you don't have to rehash that whole, oh my God, my parents are dead. He's very well adjusted. Alfred is in his life. He's like his do or die, ride or die chick. Okay. He views Alfred as basically like his dad. They have respect for each other. Alfred's always having a heart attack every time Bruce decides to go live dangerously or takes the car. So he's like that worried father, which is really cute. But the thing with he's Bruce Wayne. So the thing with Bruce Wayne is he doesn't feel that he has anyone in his life that he can truly trust. He has Harvey Dent, and this is before he became Two-Face. And he has this new girl who's like, she's a Latina, and she's spicy and fiery, and he really likes her. But anyway, what Marie Lu does with this is just incredible. So he's 18. It's his 18th birthday. He just inherited his family's company, Wayne, Wayne Corporations, and he's trying to figure out his life. At the same time, there are these people. I would compare it to, the 99%. And here in America, what we had was called Occupy Wall Street, which was when the little guys decided they was going to take on the corporations and the banks and the giants and try to just dismantle everything so that there's equal payout and equal share for everything. It was about unveiling a lot of the corporation fraud in America. So this is what the book plays on. They play on that 1%, 99% thing where they're trying to kill the 1%ers, and they're stealing their money and delivering it and giving it out to the poor. So you have a Robin Hood and you have Batman, and Batman is seeing what's going on. And he realizes that once he turns 18 and he inherits his parents' company, he's going to be on that list because he's now considered going to be a billionaire. So it's about him and trying to find out what's going on with these people and why they created this group to destroy all the billionaires. And he ends up trusting Arkham Asylum inmate who is really, she's psychological based. She can read you very well. She's an excellent villain because I would compare her to being Batman. She's like the female Batman. She knows how to hack into things. She knows all about science and computers, and she's really smart. And it's great to see like this female villain who is the same equivalent to Batman. And even the side characters like Harvey Dent, while he's not Two-Face, in the book, he is abused by his father. So you can see that psychological breakdown that he goes through, and he fiddles a lot with his hands, which ends up being the same gesture of him flipping the coin, and how he's trying to just make it and get away from his father, who's beating full beat downs every day. His father's an alcoholic. So full beat downs, him trying to come into himself, and then him being best friends with Batman. And Batman, who, yes, his parents are dead, but he has that love and support from people. And so it's kind of like a jealousy thing that Bruce Wayne has to deal with as well. So I love that book. I recommend that book so much. Another book that I've read is Black Panther, The Young Prince by Ronald L. Smith. I was very excited to read it because the Black Panther movie is amazing and everyone should go see it. So I read the book, and it is the worst thing I ever read. It's so bad. I'm so sorry. But it's basically Black Panther when he's around 12. And it's so bad. Instead of setting everything up in Wakanda, they decide, let's put it in Chicago. So all the really good stuff happens in like the first 30 pages. So he's there, T'Challa is there with his best friend. I cannot pronounce his name. M'Baku?
Yeah, M'Baku.
M'Baku. So he's there with M'Baku, and they're in Wakanda, and everything's going great. And Wakanda gets under attack by Ulysses Claw. And instead, the father, who is the Black Panther, decides to send the kids to Chicago for their own safety. So they go to Chicago, and they don't even go like the top private school. I mean, this man is like a freaking billionaire. Remember, they have all the money and all the resources in the world. They send them to rinky-dink, regular old school in Chicago, like it's a public school, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So they go to this school, and then they're stuck in the African embassy, but they can't tell anyone who their identity is. So at first I was like, oh, okay, so this is like Coming to America, but with kids. Nope, not even that at all. Basically, they don't even explore Chicago. They don't explore what's going on. It has to do with voodoo. The school is being overtaken by voodoo. So then I'm like, okay, so we're going Buffy the Vampire Slayer with this, because there's demons and spirits and voodoo. Not even that. It is so bad, disjointed, boring, ridiculous, just terrible. And it has nothing. And I know that voodoo and hoodoo is a part of the Black Panther canon, but it's so badly done that it's laughable.
Yeah, like I just want to say that from the way you described it, it sounds very coonish. Like just the fact that they decided to put him in Chicago, the state where the crime rate within the minorities is the highest, and also like the voodoo stuff. That's something that like mainstream media, they always try to attach like a negative stigma towards voodoo, but there's actually like a rich history behind it in Haiti. It's not actually a bad thing. It's like just part of their culture, and like mainstream media has kind of made it seem like something that's like bad and something that's really demented, when there's actually a more spiritual aspect behind it. But yeah, it seems like he just kind of thought of the biggest stereotypes and just went wild with it.
This is an all-black school with all black characters doing voodoo to possess souls. Not even like good things, just to possess the soul. Bring back demons, terrorize the school. And you don't really get to see T'Challa as Black Panther. Because remember, his dad is Black Panther. So he gets this knockoff costume that they give him from Africa, like a cheap little thing.
From eBay?
And from eBay, the eBay of, I don't know, Wakanda, if they have eBays, Wakanda Bay, they have that. And they give it to the kid, and it's so awful, where like even what happens when, I cannot pronounce that boy's name, M'Baku?
Yeah, M'Baku.
Yeah, him. Anyway, so what happens with him is like all of a sudden, out of the blue, because remember, they're best friends, they're considered to be on the same level. All of a sudden, he's like, you don't know what it's like for a poor black kid like me, always having to make my way in the universe. And I'm like, you live in a palace. What's going on? Nothing makes any sense of whatsoever. Like, it's not even like he's a servant. They're literally the same level. So it's just so bad. It's so bad.
They should have got Jason Reynolds to write that.
They should have. Jason Reynolds is my favorite human. If you don't know, read Marvel's Miles Morales. It's an amazing novel, and it deals with Black, and it has Hispanics and Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, and it takes place in Brooklyn instead of Queens, and it's amazing. And I have no idea what the heck they was trying to do with this Black Panther situation, the Young Prince. It is a disgrace. It is disrespectful, and it's horrible. It's like 200 pages and like 2 and change. It took me a day to read it, and even then I was still suffering. And so the book that I'm currently reading now is called Runaways, an original novel by Christopher Golden. I am only reading this because I have to review it. If I didn't, I would have burned it. It's bad. It started off really good. I would say much better than the series. But if you've never seen Hulu's The Runaways, you would have no idea what's going on. It's much different in the sense that all of the parents are dead, and the kids are trying to make it on their own. There's, as you guys know, there's about 6 different characters and the dinosaur, and they all have their own story and their own story of what's going on with them in their lives. So it's just a lot to handle. There's too many characters in it. There's too many backstories in it. They have, if you're with the LGBTQT plus community, they have storylines for that. That's great and wonderful. But everything feels forced, rushed, convoluted. There's 15,000 monologues going on at the same time. They are really adamant that Gert does not wash. They're really adamant that Chase is a sociopath and he's going to kill somebody one day. The dinosaur is the only chill part about the entire book. Everything just seems like it's trying too hard to be something that it's not. It's trying too hard to be like this action thriller. Maybe even some sci-fi is thrown in there. You got drama. You got love stories. You got a love triangle. You have people getting older and they're aging out of the system. So there's homelessness and it's too much. There's also a team running around. I cannot take any of these superheroes or any of the villains seriously. There's like 3 sets of villains that's out there to get the runaways, and I have no idea what's going on. I literally don't. It's only 348 pages plus a comic book at the back, in the back, and I'm confused. I'm very confused. So I don't recommend it.
That's one recommendation I definitely won't take, even if you did recommend it. So, yeah. But is that pretty much everything?
That's everything of what I've read and what I'm reading right now.
Cool. So yeah, that was a very great discussion. You've been reading some cool stuff.
Some really stuff.
I definitely want to read the DC book and also the Miles Morales one from Jason Reynolds, because he's on fire right now. Like he's writing a lot of good stuff. So he's an author to look out for.
I recommend also The Long Way Down, which is oh my god, it's so amazing. So this guy, basically it's about this teenager whose friend was murdered, and he decides that he's going to go and seek out revenge. So he gets his gun and he's ready to go downstairs. He lives in the projects, and it's literally 6 floors down. And as he goes into the elevator, and it takes place just in that elevator, those 6 floors for him going down, whether or not he's going to murder the guy or not. And you meet all these different characters because they all come in and out the elevator. And it's written in like a poem type form. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'll definitely be. Didn't that win an award or something?
Won a crap ton of awards. It just won the young adult. Oh gosh, it won. I think the Man Booker Prize or something. It won a bunch of awards that they just had. I want to say last month or early this month, they just had a big award show for like the library, Young Adult Library Association people. Not sure, but it won a bunch of awards, and so did Angie Thomas, and so did another book that I read was Pieces of Me. It's about this African American girl who is very dark skinned. She's a little overweight, and she does collages. So she takes what she considers to be thrown away parts that's torn and shattered, and she makes them whole again. And she creates different pieces and stuff. So she, like, say if she was to do you, so she would like take a photograph and then mix it with ribbons and pieces of paper and like say something like a gum wrapper, and she'll create that image of you. And it's about how all of the different parts of your world and all the different people that you meet in your life, how they end up creating you as a whole, and how you take all these memories and different people that you meet and you always carry them with you always. So, and that won awards too.
Nice. That sounds interesting. That's like scrapbooking. Reminds me of like scrapbooking and stuff. But yeah, definitely some great stuff to look out for. And you've been reading some cool stuff, so I'll definitely be taking more recommendations from you. We're gonna close off by saying what we want to read next month. So just in the interest of time, let's cut it down to like 2 books that we want to read next month or so. So I'll go first, and I actually just ordered 3 books now. This is why I love Penguin. the publisher, because they have a lot of classic series, and what they've done is they've created like a modern classics imprint, and the aim of this is to republish and redistribute modern classics, so stuff that's not from like 1901 and stuff like that. It's more stuff that's from like the 80s and the 70s, and around that sort of time frame. So I've actually just ordered 3 books from that collection, and I'm excited to get all 3 of them. And um, I'm probably going to try and read all 3 of them next month, because they're all fairly small books as well. So one of them is called Dark Days by James Baldwin, and
Mm.
you probably heard of this. You might have heard of this already, because it's about New York and things of that nature. So it's basically about a black guy who writes an essay about how systematically against black people America was, back in
Mm.
the 60s, the 70s, and those kind of days, and how no matter how much the government tried to preach equality and everything, systematically everything was designed to bring minorities and people of color down and prevent them from getting opportunities to grow from the slums, where they've kind of been placed and everything. So looking forward to reading that. And another one that I bought was this one is actually written by the same guy who wrote Outsiders, the book I was talking about earlier. Um, this is written by Albert Camus, and it's called Create Dangerously. And this is another essay, which is basically about creating things, like whether it's written work or a script or something. Like he's basically sharing his own ethos on how you should create, what you should be mindful of, what you should think about to create a really good story, in no matter what you're doing, whether it's even if you're writing nonfiction or if you're writing articles or editorials. Like, he's basically describing the way in which he personally approaches it. And I kind of want to read that sort of essay coming from someone in that era, because I want to see how much it matches up to how people feel about creating content these days. Because now with the internet and everything, we live in a very content creation kind of mindset. Creating content is easy for people. There's a lot of tools that are easily accessible to people with the internet connection and everything. So I want to see what the mind frame was coming from someone living in a different era where they didn't have the internet and stuff. So I'm quite excited to get that one as well and read that. It's another short book as well, so I should tear through that. And then the third one it's called The Three Electronites, and this is written by I have trouble pronouncing this, Stanislaw Lem. Yeah,
Ooh.
Stanislaw Lem, that's his name. So yeah, this is basically a sci-fi book. It's very short as well, and I don't know much about it, to be honest. I just wanted to read some sci-fi because there are sci-fi elements that I want to write in my story. So I thought it would be good to get some classic takes on sci-fi, and this came highly recommended as well. So yeah, that's something else I want to read. So these are 3 books, and I think all of them are around like 64 pages. So I'm hoping to just like read through all of them in like a week, and then also read other stuff as well. So yeah, that's what I'm planning
Cool.
to read next month.
Cool.
How about you?
Um. Okay, so it was really hard for me to just narrow it down to two. I'm gonna just say this. I have 10 total. I'm not gonna explain all 10, and they're all like for review. Stuff that I have to review, so I have to like do it first. But I'm excited to read about it. Now, one of the things that I love is psychological thrillers, as you already know, with the ones that I made you read. Um, The one that I'm excited about, doesn't come out yet. It comes out May 1st. These are all advanced reader copies. It's called The Perfect Mother by Amy, I want to say, Malloy. So Amy Malloy, I'm going to just butcher that name and hope for the best. It comes out May 1st. It's a psychological thriller that's going to be made into a movie with Kerry Washington. And it says so on like this big, massive cover. It's very beautiful. It takes place in the summer, right? So it's this woman who has a son, and she belongs to, like, those groups. It's like Mommy and Me Club. So she belongs to this group, and they all have children. And okay, wait. I can fill out the full thing. Okay. So they call themselves the May Mothers. It's a collection of new moms who gave birth in the same month, the month of May. Okay. Twice a week with strollers and towel, they get together in Prospect Park, which is in Brooklyn, New York City. Very beautiful park, by the way. Even if there's a little, murders running around, it's a very beautiful park. I recommend it. So they're seeking refuge from the isolation of new motherhood, and they start sharing their fears, their joys, their anxieties of their new child-centered lives. But when the group members agree to meet for drinks at a hip local bar, they have in mind a casual evening of fun, a brief break from their daily routine. But on this sultry 4th of July night, during the hottest summer in Brooklyn's history, something goes terrifyingly wrong. One of the babies is abducted from his crib. Dum, dum, dum. Winnie, a single mom, was reluctant to leave 6-week-old Midas with a babysitter, but the May mothers insisted that everything would be fine. Now Midas is missing. The police are asking disturbing questions, and Winnie, very private life, has become fodder for ravenous media. Though none of the other mothers in the group are close to the reserved Winnie, 3 of them will go to increasingly risky levels to help her find her son. And as the police bungle the investigation and the media begins to scrutinize the mother in the days after the abduction, damaging secrets are exposed, marriages are tested, and friendships are formed and fractured, unfolding over the course of 13 fraught days and culminating in an exquisite and unexpected twist. The Perfect Mother is a book for our times. So they compare it to Gone Girl, but with a baby. And I hope that it's a good comparison, because every book that I've read that compared it to Gone Girl was not like Gone Girl. So
that sounds intriguing, though. That does sound interesting.
It does, and it's very beautiful. The cover, it's like flowers, because month of May, so spring, new beginnings with the child. So everything is all really pretty, and they're very, very happy about this book. And the fact that it's a thriller, I love thrillers. I love my crazy people. What's gonna go happen? What's happening? Who stole the baby? I hope that it's not like The Couple Next Door, which I hate it with a passion.
Yeah.
I don't think that author should ever write again. And I won't even acknowledge the author's name because she's horrible. Anyway, so that's one book.
Ouch.
No, ouch. You have to find your gifts in this world, and that's just not your talent. And that's not even being mean. Like, I'm a terrible gymnast. You won't see me flipping and dipping. So, maybe she should find something else in life. And another one that I'm reading is called The Wife. So just picture the book, right? So you're on the sand, and there's the wedding ring, and that's just it. So it's just like a wedding ring and the sand. So it looks really nice and dreamy, but you're like, wait, what's going on? What's happening? Why is she, there's the ring just there. So here we go. Angela, a woman who suffered extreme trauma in her teens, learns that her celebrity husband may be a sexual predator. Wow. Boom. Book of our times. What's going on? Jason Powell is a handsome NYU professor. And honey, I could tell you some NYU and some SUNY Albany and some Yale University stories about professors. But anyway.
Professors and teachers are the worst, like when it comes to
you know that they're getting it from everybody. You got the parents that want to come and make sure their kids have good grades. Then you got the students that want to make sure they have good grades. Then you have to deal with other faculty members that make sure that they get tenure. There's a lot of stuff flying around. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of scandals.
Tons of scandals, honey. So Jason Powell is a handsome NYU professor whose book on socially conscious investing called Economics is a raging bestseller. Ooh. He runs a successful consulting firm and hosts a top-rated podcast that has enabled Angela and her husband to live an idyllic life with their son in Greenwich Village, all in New York City. Then his intern files a complaint at the NYPD Special Victims Unit. Oh, snap. Law and order. So made a claim that he made inappropriate sexual suggestions at the office. A second alleged victim surfaces, and soon there's a murder. Boom. And Angela has to confront the past personal trauma she thought was far in rear view mirror. Boom. So anyone who follows, this is by Alafair Burke. Forgive me if I'm butchering that name. This is his 13th novel, and he's a best-selling Edgar Award nominated author and a professor, and it's a female. Sorry, not a male. It's a female.
Wait, so is this like a Me Too movement kind of book?
You know what I think it's similar as? I think that just happens to be one of the coincidences. I don't think that it was like one of those things, because as we all know, this has been something that's been going around since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
But if I can compare it to anything, basically Adam and Eve, Cain, all of them, the flying angels, all of them. So this has been going on since forever. But I just think that it has to be one of those, when you get those perfect moments where it's like, this happens to be in the news right now. Even this sounds more like, I'm not sure if you watch it or if you have it in the country, but it's like an episode of How to Get Away with Murder.
Oh, yeah, we have that.
They did an episode where it was a college professor played by, remember, I don't know if you have this also in your country, but Boy Meets World, Corey Matthews.
Yeah, what kind of country do you think I live in, by the way?
I don't know.
But yeah, we got that.
I don't know what TV shows you have or like movies, but it was with the guy who played Corey Matthews' father. They had him as a college professor who was a feminist, and he was all like, for equal rights, and he loved women, but come to find out that he was raping all of his students. So it's kind of similar to that. That's the first thing that popped in my head instead of the Me Too movement. Or heck, I could even say that this is Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
Boom.
Oh.
You have the celebrity, man's a bestseller. Man is, they considered him to be real handsome in the day. He likes to consult about people and talk about, the downside of Black people. Back when he was really popular, he used to trash them as well. And he had his podcast, and he sounded like the crazy old man, but he was really popular, and he was a part of a lot of different colleges, and he gave money to a lot of different universities. And then this happened. So it's very similar to everything, but this seems to be very interesting, and I'm excited to read it.
Yeah, definitely let me know how that is when you read it.
Oh, absolutely. You'll hear me my rants or my raves.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. So those are the two books.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So it seems like we're in for lots of interesting discussions next month based on what we're going to be reading. So I'm definitely excited for episode 8 when we do that one. But as for this episode, I think we're going to call it a day. I did want to actually ask you before we go off air, when is the book expo that you're going to? Because I remember you went there last year and you came home with like a ton of books. Like you were struggling to carry the books home. Like
342 books and a slip disc.
Wow.
I was paralyzed for like 3 days.
Yeah, that looked intense. But like, when is it this year?
Oh, okay. So this year, remember, it's called the Book Expo and Book Con. Book Expo is where I got more majority of all of the books from. That's for like people who are in the industry. So I'm the industry. That takes place. It's good. Oh gosh, when is the date? It is on May 31st.
Okay.
Yay! So it's May 31st to June 1st, and then June 2nd to June 3rd is the is Book Con.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
So
Yeah, because I should be hopefully attending the London Book Fair, which is our equivalent in April. So yeah, I thought that the BookCon and Book Expo was before that, but I guess I'm wrong. So yeah, we have that to look forward to as well. So that's cool.
yay, more Harry Potter books.
Nah, I doubt that. Well, you never know. She did put out The Cursed Child, which yeah, let's just not mention that. But yeah, um,
No, sorry, that was a very good book or play. It was a good
I'm
play.
I'm sure the play was great, but like the actual the script, the book, whatever, like I don't consider that to be canon, first of all. Even though they say it is canon, I'm not gonna take it as canon. But
Is
yeah.
Squeaky?
Huh?
Are you serious?
Yeah, like there's I
It's
we will
fun.
have an episode on it. We'll have to have an episode on that alone
Oh, broke my heart, Fredo. You just broke my heart.
because there's stuff that just like it just doesn't make sense, and like it alters the way you view the original books kind of thing. Like it's like no, I'm not accepting it. I'm not accepting it.
Ouch! You hurt my soul.
Did you read it or have you not read it yet?
You can't get tickets down here. That's just impossible. But yes, it hasn't even came out yet here. But yes, I've
But the
read it.
book's out, right? The actual
The,
script book.
the play, the what do you call it? The script been out for a while. It's very good. I personally like it. I'm sorry
Yeah.
that you don't like it. You broke my heart by not liking it.
I just see that as a play. Like I see it as like, as a play, I can accept it. Like you go out, you enjoy it. It's something different using Harry Potter characters and stuff. But as for the actual story itself and like the script book and stuff, I'm personally not taking it as I'm not accepting it as canon personally. But I understand if other people enjoy it, and want to consider it canon.
Wow. Wow. Well, I haven't seen it yet. It's not in America yet. You guys had it first. We
Yeah,
don't get it in next year.
yeah, yeah. It's
But
really hard to get tickets for that. But
wow.
yeah.
I thought it was very decent.
Yeah, but yeah, London Book Fair should be cool. Last year, it was a very different experience because, like, in England, I think the book industry is very snobbish. Like the big publishers, they're very snobbish, and they like I tried to approach their booths and ask about, inquire about, a list of books that are coming out and how I can get on their PR list, and they really didn't want to talk to me at all. So like they kind of shooed me off, or they said just go on the website or something. So like they really wasn't trying to talk to a lot of like media, or at least small time media. They were only interested in BBC and the big people and everything.
Well,
But
you have the
I
accent.
did
BBC America?
say what?
You have the accent. Just say you're from BBC.
Everyone has the English accent because it's in England. So like I have the same accent. But yeah. Um what I did though is I went upstairs, which was where all the indie authors and the more small time publishers were, and I got a lot of love up there. Like I had a lot of interesting conversations. I met a lot of cool people. People walked up to me. They walked up to me before I even approached them. Like they just saw me sitting down writing notes, and they approached me like, "Hey, how are you? What do you do? Do you write? Do you have a website?" And they were giving me books. One guy actually paid me to write about his book. Like,
Oh,
he just met me there and then, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll pay you to write about my book and stuff." Like, so yeah, like that was really cool. That like going upstairs away from the big publishers, because the big publishers, they're very traditional and organized in how they do things. So yeah, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that's how the book industry works. And then you have your more modern type of publishers and indie publishers and people who are using methods like KDP Select, like the Amazon publishing platform and stuff. And they're more willing to have conversations, with just anybody because they're more open to the way that the industry is changing. Whereas traditional publishers, they kind of want to stick to the model that's always been. So yeah, it's very interesting to go to London Book Fair and just see that difference in, approach from all the companies. But I'm excited for this year. I'm gonna hopefully have a better game plan than I did last year. Now that I know how it works.
I'm excited for you. I hope that I get in this year, and I have to have a better strategy because I almost died last year.
Oh, I'm sure you're gonna get in. Like they must love you to give you that many books.
And then I was like still depressed because I didn't get all the books that I wanted. So, bit of a hoarding situation.
Yeah, I saw your room. You had like a wall of books. I was like, wow, I need to come and like steal some or something. But yeah.
There's 4 rows, and what you don't see is the books in the back, and how it got so bad that they have to go like to the living room now. And then yes, I do read all of them. It takes me a while, but I get to it.
Nice. Well, you're about to have 500 new books this year, so yeah. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on all that.
And I just discovered Amish Mysteries.
Oh, that's got to be another main topic we have because I gotta ask you about these Amish books that you've been reading. Like,
Guilty pleasure is Amish books. There's a whole thing of Amish mysteries with Amish love stories and like the Amish murderer. I'm in heaven. I just discovered it in like an Oprah magazine book.
oh, wasn't you reading Amish erotica or something like that?
It was like, but it was Amishy. So it was like, the exotic butter churner. And how, she lightly
That sounds
brushed his
very
hand.
explicit.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That I actually want to try one of those. I want to see how explicit they actually get and how much in detail they get. Like, oh, his shoulder brushed against mine, and I felt the gust of wind, and it made me tingle inside. Like, is that how it is? Like, is that
Well, you
how
can't inside. He said it just made me tingle. You can't say where the tingle came from or, where the tingle's going to.
right? Yeah, that should be interesting to read. But yeah, that's pretty much the show this week. I enjoyed this, and I hope that we do continue to do this. I'm glad we brought it back, and I want to thank the people who kept asking about it because you're the ones who made me think, okay, you know what? I just got to do it. I got to bring it back, man. Like, so I want to thank all my friends and everyone who's been supportive of the bookcast and, supportive of everything we do. So we're definitely going to try and have this at least once a month, every month. And everyone go and join the Facebook group. I started like a Facebook group, the Redditor book club. So if you look that up on Facebook, definitely join that. And we have a lot of cool, interesting discussions every couple days and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm just trying to build up a community of people who love and enjoy books, basically. So definitely join that. Make sure you check out redditorgroup.com, sign up for the newsletter, and make sure you like this podcast as well, because that helps us get discovered. And make sure you look out for the next bookcast. And from me and from Dana, we wish you a good day.
Good day, everyone. Pip pip.
Hip hip, hooray. Cheerio.